Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2023 film Cocaine Bear. Yes, I finally saw Cocaine Bear, and I'm going to tell you right now, I think I'd rewatch this one. And not just in a setting like, oh, I'm with a friend who hasn't seen it, just because I enjoyed it enough. Now, it's not getting a ridiculously high star rating for me. It's not like 5 stars or 4.5 stars or anything like that, but we'll get to that at the end. But I did enjoy the film. I like how self-aware this is. I mean, when you go into a film like this with this type of premise, you really need to not present it as you're being serious. And this film does exactly that. They're very self-aware, they're very much tongue-in-cheek, and they're kind of like, look, we know this is a ridiculous premise. This is what we're going to do. We're going to make fun of ourselves. We're going to make jokes. So, in essence, it's a horror comedy. Apparently, IMDb puts it as a thriller comedy. But as we all know, animal attack stuff is definitely horror. And putting the thriller tag on it is just to try and get more people to watch it. It's horror. Anyway, Cocaine Bear. Oh, I watched this, actually just got it through Netflix DVD because that's still going on through September. So I'm riding it all the way to the end. But I'm pretty sure Cocaine Bear is streaming, from what I heard, on Peacock. Someone can verify in the comments. This one's directed by Elizabeth Banks. Yes, the Elizabeth Banks who also directed Movie 43, Pitch Perfect 2, and Charlie's Angels from 2019, and has also been I was going to say prolific, not prolific, but an actress who has been well known. I liked her most in Zack and Miri Make a Porno. That's a really fun film, but liked her acting, really digging her directing. I think this film is directed quite well. It looks really good. It's a nice one. Written by Jimmy Warden, who also wrote The Babysitter Killer Queen, which I saw the first Babysitter film on Netflix. I didn't see Killer Queen, but now having seen Cocaine Bear and seeing that it's pretty solid, I think I need to go see Killer Queen because Warden's writing, pretty good. Gotta say that. Unfortunately, this was the final acting credit for Ray Liotta. I just say unfortunately because he passed away. It's not that he retired or anything. I would have loved it to be that instead. Sucks. Sucks to lose someone, especially someone so talented as Ray Liotta. But as a horror fan, I'm glad that whatever film had to be his last ended up being a horror film. And a fun one at that. And it's not one that flopped. It's a pretty good one. So quick synopsis. I don't really need to give you much. It's based on true events of a bear who ate cocaine. Don't know how much of it is actually true. Probably barely any of it. It's probably just the base premise that the bear ate cocaine and was acting off. That's probably where the true events kind of stop. But in the film, the bear eats cocaine, gets all, messed up, hyper, ready to murder, and there's lots of killing and going after people. So that's the synopsis. You don't really need to know more than that. Just watch it because it's pretty fun. How the film starts makes you think it'll be a very self-aware and light film. So from the get-go, the very first scene that they throw at you, they're like, look, we are establishing expectation here of what we're going to throw at you, and it's welcome. It's definitely one of those things where you're just like, oh, okay, awesome, awesome, awesome. It's self-aware. They're going to throw humor into this. They're going to make fun of themselves to a degree. We're just going to have fun with this. And that's what the film is. It's fun. Unless you're my wife, who had fun with the film, except for the gore. She liked the film. She just said, it's still too gory for me, though. Would have liked that toned down. But for people like me, maybe people like you, we're into the gore. The first kill lets you know what you're in for. So, speaking of the gore, there's decent gore, there's decent brutality to the kills because, hey, it's a coked up bear. Why would there not be good brutality to it and a lot of gore to it? So, yeah, it sets that expectation. If anyone's going into this, you haven't seen it yet when you're watching this, just know lots of gore, either if that's a problem for you or if it's something you're really looking forward to, you're going to get a good amount of gore. So, there you go. The CGI in this does look solid, but as usual, you have the physics issue with which happens with a lot of CGI nowadays. And forever, to be honest. Like the physics of things moving when they're CGI don't look quite right. One of the main things being like there was a scene of the bear like running towards the screen, and like the CGI bear looks pretty solid for the most part, but you can see like the way its fur is moving, it's just like the physics are off of how that would actually move. And just like movement in general of the bear itself at times very off, and how the physics actually are. So it's just a problem with CGI. You know, I'm not knocking specifically this film for CGI. It's CGI in general. That's why practical effects are much better. But I understand you're not going to use a real bear for this. So they get a pass. They definitely get a pass on that, because I'm glad they didn't use a real bear. CGI is the way to go for this. There are a good amount of fun characters in the film who are well written. So this speaks to what I was saying about Warden's script. It's good script writing. The humor is well written. The characters are quite well written. And that's a big thing about this. The film can't just be about the bear. You have to have human beings involved for the most part. They throw in a bunch. There are actually a lot of characters, and all the characters are interesting in one way or another. Furthermore, that adds to the feeling of you don't want a lot of these characters to end up dying because you're having fun with them. So it pulls the audience member in even more and makes them like, oh, I'm rooting for this one not to die. This one can die, that's okay, but this person, please don't kill them, because I want more of their humor, I want more of their personality, whatever it is that you really like about them. And there's a lot to like about these characters. Goes back to what I was saying. Warden's writing is actually really good for this film. The dialogue is also well done. That's another thing that speaks to the writing. Everything sounds realistic, but not only, it's not just about the dialogue sounding realistic, because that's partially the dialogue writing, that's partially the acting, which the acting in this is quite good overall. I didn't see any acting I was like, ooh, yeah, that's rough. But the other thing is that it's the humor. Like, the humor is good, and that's all, you know, delivered via dialogue. So, well, not all, but for the most part it is delivered via dialogue. So that speaks to another aspect of the great writing. There's legitimately good comedy. Like, legitimately, there are times that I chuckled a little bit. There are times that my wife laughed out loud. That is not an easy feat. So the comedy is pretty solid. And here's one of the biggest things, especially with like horror comedy films. It's a fine line to walk between trying to go too hard on the comedy or trying to go too hard on the horror, or trying to go with comedy at all and not landing properly. Like, I'm trying to make jokes, but it's not funny at all. This one succeeds at legitimate comedy, so I like that about it. The camera work is interesting and engaging. This is what I was talking about. The film looks good, directed well, good cinematography. It looks good. There are some interesting camera angles that end up getting used, some interestingly framed shots, so I am for it. The music used in the film is great for the most part, and used at good intervals for the most part. It's a lot of like rocking out, having a fun time with recognizable music for a while into the film, probably until about halfway through, and then they kind of get into this mode where they kind of get rid of all of that, and I kind of wish they would have kept on going with that, but what I did get, I did really enjoy. And overall, the music's fine, it's not too over the top or anything, so I'm good with that stuff. Real good performances to match the intended humor. The humorous characters, the ones, you know, engaging in humorous activity or delivering humorous lines, I thought did a really good job delivering those, because you can't just deliver a line that's supposed to be humorous and by the nature of how it's written, it's just funny. Delivery is a lot, so good. There's pretty solid carnage in the movie. Like I said, the kills set up to show you, I mean, the first kill sets up what it's going to be like. Good carnage, like I said, pretty brutal, pretty violent at times, lots of gore. They do a good job of creating variations in the deaths. That's another thing, because you think, oh, it's a bear, is it just going to maul people every single time and maul them in the same way? No. They do a really good job of setting up different scenarios and setting up different types of attacks, that it doesn't feel stale. It doesn't feel like you're getting the same death scene over and over again. They could have easily ended up doing that, and I know a lot of films that have done that type of thing before, so really glad they didn't fall into that trap. You really don't know where the film's going. That's a big thing that drives interest in a movie, is not being able to project where is this film going. I mean, you know probably at the end overall what's going to end up happening, but a lot of specifics, it takes a lot of twists and turns that you just don't expect. And not like necessarily twists and turns as in like, oh my gosh, it's deeply profound, like this is a thriller. It's not a thriller. It's not at all a thriller. I don't know why it's being given that label. It is horror comedy, straight up. But I didn't know where this film was going. My wife had no idea where this film was going, so that's great. Keep the audience guessing and they'll be more engaged. The pacing is really good until you get to probably like the last third of the film. So awesome pacing for 2/3 of the film. For that first 2/3, love the pacing. I thought it was phenomenal. If they could have kept that up for that final third of the film, where it really does start to drag a bunch of the time, I would have given this an even higher rating. I was going to give it an extra half star, but I couldn't because they really dropped down on that pacing. This movie is chock full of dirtbags and idiots, and it is better for it. A lot of times I would not be saying that because I don't want characters like that because they can be very annoying. But like I said, the humor is such and the characters are written in such a way that it's just entertaining. It's a lot of entertainment. This is what you see Cocaine Bear for. It's entertainment. Anyone who saw this film coming out and was like, oh, Cocaine Bear, it's about a bear that eats cocaine and goes around and kills people, and said this should be a profound film. No. We got what we probably expected. Entertainment. Aspects of this film actually reminded me a little bit of the film Mosquito from the 90s. This film takes place in the 80s, by the way, but it reminded me a lot. There are a bunch of like vibes that I got from it that were very much like Mosquito. So if anyone's seen Mosquito and you liked it and you haven't seen Cocaine Bear, I would recommend you see Cocaine Bear. Just saying. Anyway, that's all I have to say about Cocaine Bear. I liked it. Good times. Out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'm giving it a quite good 3.5 star rating. I would have bumped that to 4 if the if the ending was better, and B, if the pacing... Actually, if the ending was better, or B, if the pacing in that last third of the film was better. Just saying. So, but 3.5, quite good, especially for a film like this one. But yeah, would love to hear your thoughts on the film. Go ahead and put it in the comments. Do you agree with me? Disagree with me? It's all good. Respectfully talk about that. Give me a sentence or two letting me know why you did or didn't like the film, or were ambivalent about it. I mean, that's an option as well. But do me a quick favor, hit subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because I would greatly appreciate that. Hit the notification bell button if you want to know when I'm putting up new videos, which is 3 a week. So it's not like a ton, but it's a decent amount of work. So join this nerdy horror community I'm creating here. It's fun. I'm not doing this as like, you know, a living or anything. It's just a hobby. And I like talking to people about horror stuff, especially people who are into things like Cocaine Bear. Anyway, thanks everyone for checking this out, and until next time, keep it brutal.